Okay. So today, I'm so honored to want to get this title right, United States Marine Corps Staff Sergeant, Infantryman, Scott
Mm,
Gatto.
that's right. That's who I am. In a nutshell, very simple. So Semper Fi to all the fellow Marines out there. I didn't catch, was Travis, are you a veteran as well?
I am not.
You are not. You just have a cool call sign like Grizzly, because that would be like a cool veteran call sign. Well, look, I appreciate you all having me on here today. And so for myself, um, I was talking to Sarah quite a bit last night, and I'll try to keep this as conversational as possible. I don't like to sit on the soapbox, so to say, tell you all about me and all about what I'm doing, because it's more about learning what you all are doing and why you all are so interested in helping veterans lead healthier and happier lifestyles. Because that's something that I am very interested in providing for as many veterans as I possibly can touch in my lifetime. I was once that veteran who not necessarily was living an unhealthy or unhappy lifestyle, but I was living a life more of like in a shell of a hermit crab because I only came out when I needed something, or I only came out of my shell to conduct daily business, like go to work. And after work was over, I just wanted to go home and go to the gym and lift weights or go on long runs to clear my mind. Uh, I joined the Marine Corps in 2001, and I went to Paris Island. So I heard some Paris Island action out there from the chow hall and working parties and things of that nature. But that's where I started my journey. After leaving Paris Island, I went to the School of Infantry, Camp Geiger, North Carolina. And after spending, I think it was like 52 days there, I got orders to Hawaii. So, which was pretty ironic because I was like, wow, I never thought in a million years. I had only traveled to Florida and Ohio outside of Michigan, where I live now and where I was born and raised prior to the Marine Corps. And then to get orders to 3rd Marines in Hawaii was kind of like, this is going to be pretty cool. And so after School of Infantry, I got a few days off to visit with family prior to flying to Hawaii. And I got on a plane on September 10th, 2001, and flew through Chicago and then LA. And by the time I arrived in Kaneohe Bay and started pressing my camis, shining my boots when we still did that stuff, and like an eruption of screams and war cries started rippling through the barracks at about 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, Hawaii time. And it was because the World Trade Center was under attack and planes were flying into it. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, these guys have a lot of nerve, man, creating some kind of fallacy. Planes flying into buildings. Like, where am I? Why would they screw with me like this? And I just couldn't believe that that was really something that was taking place. I mean, anybody who's gone through boot camp or School of Infantry realizes, or even any MOS school in the military realizes that, there's a lot of jokes played, a lot of tricks, things that they do just to gain like a mental advantage over you. And I thought this was one of those. So when push came to shove and we finally realized what had happened, it wasn't short, after that, maybe a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, that we found out we were deploying. And that became, my cycle was deploy overseas, come home for 6 months, train as hard as I possibly could, and then redeploy. And sometimes I didn't even get 6 months in between deployments. It would be 3 months or 2.5, and we'd be right back out. But I did, 4 tours in 4 years, and 6 months prior to those tours taking place, I was living in Paris Island and in North Carolina at Camp Geiger. So I spent the majority of my first 4 years deploying overseas. And I heard someone say that DD-214 looked like a Bible. Well, I have DD-214 and 4 DD-215s for things that were added on along the way. So I have a pretty good storybook that would take me a lot longer than an hour to probably depict. So I'm just going to focus in on one particular moment. And that moment is, and you probably heard a lot about this from Jake, so it'll be just the same story, maybe different point of view. But I had just come back from my third deployment, and I was originally with 3-3 India Company, and they said that you guys aren't getting any leave. We're going to go out to the field, we're going to train, and we're going to do a battalion effects, which is something you do right before you go on a very large deployment. And so that's when they bring all the aircraft, and whether it's helos, closed air support, and tanks, and any kind of AAV vehicles, weapons, heavy weapons, mortars, artillery, all join forces, and we do a combined effort, live fire range, to make sure we're all on the same page. And they, like the second or third night, there was a lot of rumors going around that there was some Marines that were going to be leaving the battalion to go to another battalion and deploy right back over to Iraq. Well, I was thinking, well, there's no way it could be me. I've just done 3 deployments. I've been in for, just under 3 years, and there's no way it could be me. And when they started reading the names off that roster, it was guys that I had joined with. So I knew, I was like, oh man, I'm on this roster. This is going to suck. Well, we got the word we were going to drop over to another battalion who needed Marines to deploy, because we were such an up-tempo schedule, and there just wasn't enough combat replacements to fulfill duties. And SOI dumps, which stands for School of Infantry, just like I was a dump one day that showed up on 9/11, they weren't coming to Hawaii. They were all going to Pendleton and all going to Lejeune to support their efforts. So, that's what caused me to ship over to 1-3. So I barely knew the guys that I went to the battalion with. And it took a couple of months before we deployed. But I got over there, I earned myself another squad leader position. And we got on to Okinawa, Japan, to get on the ship and set sail towards Iraq. So when we got to Kuwait and we really didn't have a mission, I remember we were just climatizing, waiting for what was going to happen. And I just think that they didn't want to say what we were going to do, but they knew what we were going to do. And I would read the Stars and Stripes every day about how bad Fallujah was. And I was thinking to myself, man, if there's one place I really don't want to go, it's there. And about 20 days after being in Kuwait, I got woke up at the middle of the night from my platoon sergeant. He said, hey, Corporal Gatto, get up. And I was like, all right, what's going on, Staff Sergeant? And he said, well, I got good news and bad news. And he said, which one do you want? So, well, I suppose I'll take the good news first. And he says, well, we got our mission. We got our orders. I was like, all right, so where are we going? And he said, we're going to Fallujah, and we're going to take down the city. We're going to invade the city in less than a month, and we're going to take it over. And I was thinking, like, man, the one place I didn't want to go, and that's where we're going. So obviously we always stay mentally prepared. And, so it was just waking up, 30 in step and marching orders. What's next? We flew into TQ into Kaidam, and within, 12, 18 hours, they took us from TQ and processed us and dropped us off at Camp Fallujah, where very first night there, artillery attack. And we had a couple guys, become amputees, like just as soon as we put our feet on Fallujah soil. So it wasn't a easy transition. But on the 8th of November of 2004, we had a bunch of missions prior to, but on the 8th of November of 2004, we got the warning order that we're pushing into the city, and we did it in the middle of the night, and we lost a lot of guys just rolling into the city. And it was, if I could describe what it was like, if anybody's seen Saving Private Ryan, we got on Amtrak's and there was an ocean between the ship and the city. It was just desert floor. But we rolled in there in line, just like we were rolling up to do a beach landing. RPGs, IEDs going off one after the next, bullets dinging off the sides of the vehicles. And, they let us out just like they would in a beach landing, and ran right into a city where, it was filled with over 10,000 insurgents and innocent civilians too. So, as I know, Van's on here. Is it Von or Van? Von?
It's Von like sun.
Okay, Von. Okay.
Thanks for asking.
So, like, you were a refugee at one point. There was times where I came across kids that had letters attached to them and bags of money, and their parents were so in fear of getting beheaded or getting killed by the the different various insurgent groups that were operating inside of Fallujah, that they just left their kids, because that's what they told them. They said, well, if you take your family, then we're going to take your lives. So ultimately they knew the tunnel systems, and they escaped the city without their children and left their children there, hoping that they would survive. And obviously every child that I came across, fortunately for me, made it out of the city, just like you, to a refugee camp. But obviously there was times where it just wasn't a perfect world. So we had to experience a lot of things that we probably didn't want to do, we didn't want to see. And anybody knows who served in the military, like you do all these missions together, and you're out there praying before the mission, just hoping to make it to the next mission. You're not worried about tomorrow. You're not worried about what's for dinner, where am I going to sleep. It's more or less just, I want to survive the next door I'm going to kick down. And that was how I lived my life day to day, is, okay, I'm going to kick down this door, and now I got to go and, button hook this corner and clear this room. And, if I made it out of one house, it was an accomplishment. So that was my small term goal every day, was just to make it from house to house. And there were some times where I was, dramatically impacted. Marine Corps birthday, 2004, 2 days into the city, I'd already been in I don't know how many engagements, close quartered. And, that morning we were getting shot at by a sniper, and it led to clearing a bigger building that was adjacent to us. So we went in to clear it. I took 8 guys, including myself, and it was filled with bad guys. So we walked right into an ambush, and we lost a few guys that day. So I lost my first couple of Marines. We lost a guy named Lance Corporal Aaron Pickering, and then we lost Doc Woods, and then we lost 3 others wounded that left on really 4, but 3 of them went directly to Germany, and 1 went to Camp Fallujah, but none of them had come back. So I've been in that time where I'm on my last magazine of ammo, thinking this is it. And then a big giant bulldozer comes crashing through a building, sends the building down on top of us, and you're hooking and jabbing with guys that were just throwing grenades all over you for 45, 50 minutes. And where I thought that there was no way in hell I was surviving, somehow I walk out and I got a couple of scratches, and I have no idea how, but I know there was a bigger force over the top of me. And so my faith definitely carries on to this day, because the things that I seen and the things that I had to experience, there was no other reason for how I made it through the things I made it through. And at times, at my weakest moments, a lot of prayers went up, and luckily for me, a lot of luck came back, or a lot of guidance came back. So that was what transpired in my probably my deepest, darkest moments, because of the Fallujah guys. And my platoon in particular, I was one of 9 out of 41 to survive, and one of 3 to not be sent to Germany, to Ramstein, and back to Bethesda or Walter Reed for amputations and other various surgeries. And for that, on the 26th of January of 2005, the deadliest day in Iraq, I was also there for that, and I lost 26 Marines and a sailor that day, and that was the brunt of it. So the first Iraqi elections, and we had a helicopter crash. in a blink of an eye, 26 of your best friends and one of your best corpsmen go down in a ball of fire. And they just survived probably until this day, the bloodiest battle of the war. From the start, from 2001 all the way till current present day. And so I had a lot of survivor's guilt that I carried around, that I still carry around from time to time. It creeps up on me. And it's really about how I position myself and what I do to execute the mission and get to the next day. And out of the men that fought in Fallujah, so to give you some crazier statistics, is 93 men died from all 3 Marine battalions, died in Fallujah. There was over 200 or 240 some severely wounded individuals in that fight. But since then, 89 of those Marines have committed suicide. So we are knocking on the door of eclipsing how many people died kicking the doors down, finding and fighting the bad guys in the city, to how many Marines have taken their own life since. So the war is still surrounding us, so to say, and guys are still fighting it every day. And I know I am at times. And so I was telling Sarah last night how I got involved with Reunite the Fight. But before I get into Reunite the Fight and what we're doing with the nonprofit organization and why we started and how we started, does anybody have any questions or comments or anything they want to ask me about my time in service or being in Fallujah and things of that nature? Anybody?
We're
Yes,
all
sir?
trying to get take a breath. It is just unreal. Even hearing it for the second time and hearing, some of the statistics, it's just absolutely, I can't imagine how heartbreaking that was. And then to even hear the statistics of how many more took their lives,
Mm-hmm.
just the trauma that you all must have had, seeing everything and the loss and the grief, and what do you do with that? And especially when you come back and all that bubbles up and you don't have your tribe anymore. Like it just is mind boggling to imagine that. And yeah, I want to open it up for others too.
The only thing I got for you is Semper Fi, Staff Sergeant. Semper
Yeah,
fucking Fi.
Hey, I appreciate that, Johnny Walker, more than you know.
It's from my heart, Staff Sergeant.
I know it is. I know it is. So I appreciate that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just jumping on Sarah's, like our silence is just like in awe of all you've been through, and then come back and continue to serve, your fellow servicemen. I think it's so amazing that what you're doing. And I'm looking forward to hearing that part of the story.
Yep.
But the part you talked about, those children, like everyone looks at the Marines as these warriors, right? But with the story you just told about the care you showed for those children, the care I saw from the Marines. I was only 2, but the stories I've heard, like I really look at you all as humanitarians. And the whole idea that, getting into more of the story you're about to tell, this concept of, I will never understand what you went through, right? I can be grateful. I can try to serve you guys in any way I can. But the fact that what you're doing with your program is veterans helping veterans, and us as allies just giving our support, donating, hosting things, is really like the best we can do. But thank you so much for sharing that story, because again, it just it emphasizes like what kind of men and women sign up for this, right? You're willing to lay down your lives for not only the people in this country, but people across the world that you don't even know. So thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice.
No, I really appreciate that. And I did it, because I wanted to, not because I had to. So I raised my right hand and, took an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States against all foreign enemies and domestic. So, I always tell people I never asked for anything I got. And I never hoped and wished for anything that I got or anywhere that I went. I just went wherever God wanted to put me. And, I live my life by my faith. A lot of guys who get out, they get the opportunity. I mean, I served for 10 years, which is a whole nother story that I won't go into too far. But, after that Fallujah deployment, I did get out of the Marine Corps for about 3 months. I was out for 3 months, and I enrolled in college, and I was going to do what I thought I was dreaming to do for 4 years while I was serving and fighting. And attending college, I went and sat in, I don't know, I was working for a sprinkler company, digging trenches for $8.50. So when I see people complaining about minimum wage, I'm thinking, I just went from kicking indoors and taking bad guys off of the planet to digging a sprinkler trench for $8.50. And now I was going in for like an entry-level government position. It was like a GS7. I think it paid like $35,000 or $40,000, but I was excited about it. And I felt that I was deserving of it. But when I sat in the interview, I sat across from an individual who interviewed me, and he looked at me dead in my eyes and said, what kind of leadership or management experience do you got? And I was thinking to myself, like I led a squad providing security for the president of the Philippines for 6 months on my own. Nobody else was there. I didn't have no platoon commander, no platoon sergeant. Like, I was the person that she gave direct orders to. And then I told my squad. And obviously there were some other squads that were also a part of the mission that would rotate and provide the security needed. But from that deployment to the deployments I experienced in combat and theater and being a squad leader with detachments, I mean, in Fallujah, hell, as a E4 promoted to brand new E5, I was I had anywhere from 19 to 25 guys, including my full squad with all the attachments, engineers and heavy machine guns and mortarmen. And, so I always had plenty of responsibility. And but when he said that, the emotions that went through my body, triggered some really evil thoughts. And I said, man, if I don't leave this place, I'm going to end up in jail. Like, I wanted to beat that guy to a bloody pulp, and I knew it, and I'm not afraid to admit it. But it was a very bad time. But I left that interview, and I went down to the Marine Corps recruiting office, and I sat down. And I wasn't clean shaved or anything, but I wasn't like way far out of regs. And there was a gunny, and I said, Gunny, and he said, what do you want? And he said, are you a Marine? And I said, yeah. He said, he wanted to attack me about my shave or whatever, which I had like a little stubble on my face. And I said, look, I just got out of the Marine Corps 3 months ago. I just went through this horrific interview. If I stay here, I'm going to kill somebody. I was like, I need to go back. And I said, I got out way too soon. I wasn't ready. And so he said, where do you want to go? I said, I really don't care. Send me wherever the hell you want. And so I went back in and continued on the fight. But, if I hadn't, I mean, I couldn't even imagine what would have happened if I hadn't went back in. But the relationships that I built were great. And it gave me some more Marines to, gain the camaraderie with, because I lost everybody that I had in Fallujah. And the guys that, out of the ones who were wounded and still here today, I'm really close with 2 of them. One, I have like literally no clue where he is, and nobody does. I don't even know if he's even alive. But 2 of them I know very, very well, and I see periodically. One actually lives in California and would be a great person to bring on your guys' pep talks here to the podcast, I should say. But and he's I wrote his Silver Star. He is one hell of a guy. His name's Chris Kane. But anyhow, I jumped out of the military in 2010. In 2007, I got, after I'd gone back in, done a couple more years in the infantry, and then I got enrolled in the MECEP, Marine Enlisted Commissioning Program. And in 2009, I completed my degree and I had my seat for OCS. And I got a, phone call that the Marine Corps made a MAR admin change, which is a white letter change. And I have tattoos that cover my ribs and cover my back. And a lot of them are memorial tattoos of the men I lost. But, so they said, yeah, your tattoos no longer qualify for officer candidate school. So the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, who is, he was the 13th Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major Carlton Kent, good friend of mine and good friend of Jake's. He was the first MEF RCT-1 Sergeant Major when we were in Fallujah. So he was like the head honcho then, and then became the head honcho of the Marine Corps. And he called and, let me know the bad news, told me he wanted me to stay enlisted. And, I was pretty washed out at that time. And kind of, the reason I went the officer route is because I knew I wanted to retire a Marine, but I wanted the actual retirement benefits that these officers were getting. They were making a lot more money than us enlisted guys were. So I thought it was a good fit for me anyhow, and it just didn't work out. So I got into DOD work and DOD contracting for 4 years. And then, I married my wife. I met my wife after I got out of the military, met her. We married about a year and a half later, had our first kid in 2012. And, being deployed all over the world for the government, she said, hey, you need to find a new job, a new career. So I ended up, taking my education in the medical field, and I got into pharmaceutical sales. And it kept me home. It didn't send me overseas and on a BlackBerry phone where my wife couldn't get a hold of me. And so I did that, and I still do that, and I've excelled at it. But it was a very hard, steep learning curve on how to communicate to normal civilians again. And that still sticks with me, because there's times where I want to unleash the Marine on them and give them some knife hands. And, I know all the Marines on there know exactly how that can feel at time to time. But when I just don't feel like someone's putting forth the maximum effort, I get all fired up in Marine mode. But, I've learned how to contain that and control those emotions at this point in my life. And, I actually travel quite a bit to the West Coast because I'm a director for the VA, military, DOD, and the vaccines business, and I have the entire West Coast. So I've
Who do
done
you work for?
GSK, GlaxoSmithKline.
I used to work for them too as a sales rep.
There you go.
Yeah, out here in California. That's
Nice.
great. Yeah, we
so you
probably
don't
know
work
some.
for them anymore?
I don't. I've been running my own business for the last 5 years, but we probably have some common connections there.
Yeah. Yeah. What division did you work in?
Respiratory.
Okay. Yeah. I worked with respiratory with AstraZeneca
Got it.
when I first got into pharmacy or pharmaceuticals, and then went to vaccines with GSK.
Got it.
And then they immediately picked me up for, the regional manager role for the federal side. So it's been a blessing in disguise. But that leads me to, Reunite the Fight. So, before I get into Reunite the Fight, does anybody have any questions or anything they want to ask before
I do.
I indulged into this? Go for
I'd
it.
love to ask one last question. So it's just, I even feel like hitting the guy who interviewed you. So I can imagine. I am very curious, though, just for us, the civilians on the call and any civilian who hears this. What is a supportive way to interview? Is there what could that guy have done that would be that would have felt more inviting, or whatever was triggering you so much? I felt triggered. So it was pretty obvious, like, seriously, really, could this be more ridiculous? But how could he have interviewed you better?
Well, I think at that point of, the war and everything, it was 2005 and Fallujah had just happened. I don't feel like there was a lot of combat vets that had released back out into the wild, so to say. So not a lot of people had many contacts with them. And, you know, as I told you yesterday, Sarah, there was a lot of military leaders that I came across that had nowhere near the amount of time in combat, nowhere near the amount of combat valor awards or crazy stuff in their DD-214 that would even compare with what I had. And again, I don't boast about it. I don't ask about it. You know, it wasn't something that I had, but I think having that on a piece of paper was almost unrealistic for a guy who's probably sitting across from me, who's 50 years old, and he's looking at my 22-year-old self saying, there's no way this guy has all that. He's got to be lying, you know? And maybe that's the way he thought. You know, I don't know. I didn't ask. I didn't want to stick around to ask, to be quite honest. But I think to answer, and that's giving him the benefit of the doubt, but to answer your question, to make it more inviting is really for any veteran or anybody who's interviewing a veteran of the armed forces, is to maybe think about when you look at their resume and see the military experience, and when you ask them to speak about their military experiences, maybe, you know, ask them in their own words without using military doctrine or language. How would you describe your time in service? And, you know, to thank them for their service, and, you know, maybe even inquire about where they served, what units, you know, what they miss about it, what they think the best part, or what they actually gained from being a Marine or a Navy sailor or an airman. Because, you know, the largest things we learn, as we talked about yesterday, Sarah, is, you know, you learn quite easily how to live with barely anything. And you can adapt to almost any situation that you're put into because you're used to having nothing. And so when you get an accommodation or an amenity put into your life, whether it be more money or, you know, something for your home, a warm shower goes a long way with veterans and things of that nature. So, you know, I see Johnny Walker, the Marine Corps trains you to be, right? You know, the Marine Corps trains you to be more independent. It trains you to have teamwork and depend and rely on others, but also how to work well with others. And I think a lot of those things don't get put on the resume, but if somebody took the time to actually maybe just listen to the veteran's story for a few minutes prior to indulging right into resume bullets, that they might find something surprising about that individual.
So it's just this huge disconnection. Like you come in and the person interviewing, it just has absolutely no clue what you've just been through for them to protect them, I'm sure. I mean, that's what I think. So there's just being totally out of the understanding of what a veteran goes through and what they sacrifice for this country. Maybe to have, you know, if more civilians, and this is what I hope the ripple effect, another ripple effect of this will be, is to educate civilians for the people who protect us. So I thank you too. I just, your story is mind-boggling to me also, just like Vaughn said, there's no way we will ever understand, but we deeply appreciate the sacrifice that all of you have made, signing on that line, whatever your job was, whatever it was. But to hear what you've been through and the incredible loss of people and your brothers and your sisters, and then to have the rest come home and take their lives too, is truly mind-boggling. So thank you.
Sarah, I can I ask the staff sergeant a quick question, please, before he goes in the Unite the Fight? I really want to hear about Unite the Fight. I'm super pumped about it, but it's something you hit on, and actually have one of my my vice president of my company is on right now. He joined the group, Horns. You'll hear me call him Doc if we communicate because he's a double Doc. But he can attest to this. So we have a lot of civilians on our team. Yesterday we had a motivating, a slam dunk day. And I am on the horn trying to get these civilians motivated. And I know Doc could feel me like wanting to just, be the top hat, and walk in and just start throwing Foot Lockers upside down. And I literally had to like stop for a second. Like, why aren't these civilians motivated about what we just fucking did today? And you were mentioning that when you were coming back to civilian life, and you definitely have a lot more experience with we all have it. There's a million guys and Ray-Bans I love to punch in the face just because we get that feeling. But I guess how did you transition that motivation, like you mentioned, how you were like, when you first got back to civilian, you first got into pharmaceuticals, how did you tone that down? And how did you focus that? And going from, me wanting to toss Foot Lockers up, like, wake the fuck, up. How do you do that? I mean, that would help me, and hopefully, Horrence, the doc, deal with our civilian coworkers.
No, that's a great question. And I got a couple simple answers for you. So, I'll give you a quick sidebar story without going into grave detail. I was in a work meeting, pharmaceutical company, working for AstraZeneca, maybe been working for the company for about 1.5 years. At the moment in time, I was the #1 rep for my area. And, all I did was hustle. That's all I did. I didn't do anything different. I just brought my energy to work every day. And I came in with an open mind and I listened, right? And if one thing, Vaughn can probably vouch for this, that the pharmaceutical company, good pharma reps listen to what their customers are asking for or what their customers' needs are. A lot of people in the pharmaceutical industry love to talk, could care less about listening, and just want to bump their gums. Well, I had a woman who sat across from me in a meeting. Now, we had every regional and top manager in the room, and I had brought something up about effort, and this woman, wanted to try to, defend herself or her team and, really say that it wasn't true. But I was also throwing myself in the boat of saying like, look, like, I get it. I'm top overall rep, but, that has nothing to do with what the rest of the year holds. And, effort needs to be maximized, because if, we don't have the effort to put in the extra hours to know our business, know our customers, and know what's needed, and then maybe ask more questions or, demand more answers from our hierarchy folks that are given the orders on a daily basis or creating the sales tactics that we're going to use. And so in a bleak moment, I stopped her and was like, listen, I mean, she tried to give me a sniper analogy. Like, imagine if you're a sniper and you're sitting on a ledge. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I was like, first of all, and that's when the Marine Corps knife hand came out in live action. And there was no professionalism on top of it. It was just like, look, first, don't ever give me a sniper analogy. I don't care how many books you've read or how many stories you've heard or who've served in your family. You're not a sniper. You have no business giving me a military analogy to base what we're doing here in the room, which has like the ramifications and responsibilities and our duties are nowhere near of that of a sniper. So let's not even go down that road. But, in a nutshell, I lit her up in front of the entire company and I got pulled aside. And they were like, whoa, you cannot do that. But I was fired up and there was nothing that was going to stop me. And so, but that gave these people around me a chance to know the person that was wearing the suit and carrying the tote bag every day, doing the job. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of tell my story. And I was like, look, this is what I've been through. And I am not going to stand to let anybody, because I have to respect everybody else's, whether it's their gender roles or how they feel about religion or how they feel about sexuality. And I got to respect everything else. But how many times do you hear anybody trying to respect what veterans have been through and the things that may or may not trigger the things we say and do? And it's not talked enough about in the workspace. And that's what got me to voice my opinion about that. And it kind of, you know, humbled them as well, including the leadership. It's like, how are you to sit here and tell me what's going to offend me and what not? But because I went through war and had to, you know, raise a rifle and pull a trigger and do my job, that's supposed to make me stronger. So nobody else can, you know, I'm not supposed to worry about my things that offend me, but worry about everybody else's and take theirs into consideration 100% of the time. And they didn't really have anything to say. And I said, you know, you can look at this as an armor shield. I said, but I bleed the same way that everybody else does in that room. And they put their pants on the same way I do, and we're no different. And just as easily as they can get offended, so can I. I said, except when I get offended, I voice my opinion, I get vocal, and that's just how I deal with stuff. And I don't let stuff just sneak into the next room or the next day or the next week or month for another conversation. When I get upset, I'm dealing with it. That's how I roll, right then and there. And so my advice around that is, obviously I learned that being that loud and that vocal and that experience was maybe not all the right way to go about business. So now inserting myself into different roles and teams of various types of professionals, I let them know up front, like, hey, look, I'm a veteran. I've served in combat. This is what I've done. This is how I feel about it. And, you know, if you want to ask me questions about it, that's cool. If you want to give me some kind of analogy, you might want to, you know, think about what you're going to say before you're going to say it, because I am going to critique it and criticize you, knowing that you haven't served and I have. I would never take anything away from your experience, so don't take anything away from mine. And there's a lot of things that veterans bring to the table, experiences that they bring to the table. I mean, our work ethic is next to none. Every single job that I have gotten outside of the military, I've used the same line on every job. When they say, do you have anything else you want to add to your interview? I said, yeah. And I say, you know, I don't know how many people are interviewing for this job today, but I can tell you right now, without a shadow of a doubt, I will outwork every last one of them. I may not be smarter than all of them. I may not have all the glitz and glamour and all the bullets on my resume to compete with all of them, but I guarantee you I will outwork every last one of them without a shadow of a doubt. And I know that to be true in my heart and in my mind. And that's what separates me from them. Where they may have some things that separate them from me, that's my separation. So be yourself, be honest, and be upfront, because that's the only way that you're going to be seen for who you are. And you shouldn't have to channelize your motivation. You know, I tell people all the time, I cuss like a sailor. I don't think I have, at least on this call, but, you know, I cuss, I swear, but I respect God. You know, I love my family. I have morals and values. And if I feel that those have been jeopardized, I'm going to get vocal about it. And so I just let people know who I am. And it's gone a lot better that route, because when they know up front and I have to come back to a sidebar, I'm like, hey, look, I've said this before. And I really don't like how you presented this or said this or whatever the situation may be. But they know, hey, yeah, this guy did say that. And, you know, I'm sorry. So how do we get past it at that point, versus channelizing it, tucking it down deep until you explode like I did in that meeting.
I love how candidly you're sharing. And I think, again, this conversation is going to have a ripple effect. See that Vaughn had expressed on chat that she's getting a lot of ideas. And I think Vaughn and I are like two peas in a pod in some ways, coming from the creative civilian. But I want this conversation to get out to the civilians, especially the ones I know at the VA. So I really appreciate you sharing so candidly. Thank you.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
And I mean, I've noticed a lot of larger companies now have programs, like they're like programs that can bring in veterans, right? So I think like, who did I speak to recently? Google, they have a veteran onboarding program. And I'm wondering, and, you know, and Qualcomm has something like that. So some of the larger companies have it internally. But I'm wondering if some of these smaller companies, like how are they trained to hire on veterans? Like what are some of the processes that they need to know? I volunteer at the Honor Foundation, is a transition program for military veteran, military to civilian careers. And they talk about like the experience you guys have is, yes, you're the most amazing leaders, right? There's so many things you can bring to the table, but how do you translate that into a language that'll get you the job you need? And how on the other side are people going to listen to that?
Right. No, absolutely. One thing that I'll share with you, and we could talk afterwards and exchange contact information, but
Absolutely.
Are you familiar with VRA hires in the DoD?
No.
Okay. So just to give you an example of how much information is out there, I've done so much even outside of my time in a uniform, but what a VRA hire is a VRA, and I've gotten several guys jobs in the DoD. I've got a lot of connections in the DoD, especially up here in the Midwest and East Coast. But a VRA, they bring you in, automatic appointment to GS-11. All you need is an Iraqi liberation or an Afghanistan campaign medal. That's it. You don't need a combat action. You don't need a Purple Heart. You don't need a disability letter. If you have one of those two ribbons saying you deployed overseas to Iraq or Afghanistan, you can get an automatic appointment to GS-11. Even if it's for a GS-7 or 9 job, they'll automatically pay you as an 11. And then, as you know, once you get into the DoD, it's an act of Congress to get rid of you. But a lot of vets don't know about that. And so even when there's a job posting on USA Jobs, if you can locate the supervisor or somebody in the department that's hiring for the job, even if it's the HR recruiter, and let them know that you have a VRA candidate, they don't even have to solicit the posting, and they can walk right into a job. But there's plenty more ways. Government contracting houses like Booz Allen, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, they have some really spectacular programs as well. And what I like about their programs, say again?
Does GSK have a program like that? I don't remember hearing
So we just started a veteran ERG this past year.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
And so right now I am on the team with like 4 or 5 other military leaders, and we are in the process of finding a way to bring veterans on board and put them through an internship. So a paid internship, because one of the rules of getting into GSK is having a degree, right? Well, we understand that people might do 20 years in the military and their job is logistics. Like that's what they do, is supply chain style stuff. And they have more experience than most college kids have. So how do we bring those people in without a degree? And so that's what we're trying to get the, approvals for. COVID kind of slowed it down, but I know within the next 12 months, because we've been putting some, heat on the system to really push it through to where we can bring people in, intern them, make sure they're a good fit for the job, and then appoint them. And then same thing for veterans who are young, getting out, that may only do 4 years, get them in as an intern and allow them to go to school. So, hey, you want to go to school? We'll pay you to go to school in Philly as an intern, and they're going to provide housing for these veterans.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I unfortunately have to hop off of a 12 o'clock call, but
Yep.
I'll continue looking to Reunite the Fight, and I put my email there if we can connect afterwards. I'd love to hear more and support you in any way I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to just send me a quick email at scott@reunitethefight.org.
That's easy enough. I'll send you an email now.
Awesome.
Thank you. Nice
Good
to
to
meet
see you,
you.
Vaughn.
Bye.
Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Well, I think, one of the things, Scott, I was really excited to have you on too. I mean, just the intensity of your story, just again, how expressive you are, how candid you are. It really teaches us a lot. It really connects. It connects, it builds bridges. It is the ripple effect. And the fact too, that you got to a place where you were able to find your meaning from the help that you got, from the light bulbs that went on, from the way that you found your kind of way out of all this. You found a way to pay it forward. And so that is why it's so great to have your story too. You're not in the middle of it still, but you found a way out, and the resilience part is fantastic. So do you want to share about that? Reunite?
Yeah. So I'll start with this. So, we talked about how I got into pharmaceuticals. I got another opportunity for promotion, and I took a promotion to move to Annapolis, Maryland. So I, at the time, my wife was pregnant with number 2, and we had my oldest daughter, Elena. And so we got in a car, went out to Annapolis, met with the manager, thought it would be a good fit, made the transition. And, so I went out there for a couple of years, and we had really nobody. I had one veteran that I served with out there. I didn't see him very much. I seen him a couple of times in the 2.5 years that I lived there, but it gave me a lot of time to think. So when I went into the Marine Enlisted to Commissioning program towards the end of my military career, I spent a lot of time running. I mean, the running, I can run, like my wife says, he can run like the wind blows. I will run for miles, and I don't slow down at all. I get faster actually over time. And it's not to boast about myself, but it's a way for me to clear my head and clear the things that are going on inside of me emotionally and translate it into positive energy. And so running is just something that I feel that I need to do on not a daily basis, but more so, when that feeling and urge comes about. And my wife will tell people, I just hate the fact that he can wake up and walk out the door and go run 20 miles and then not run for 2 more months. And then he can wake up and go do it again, and it doesn't faze him. And that's literally how it works for me. And it's not like that for anybody, but I would say that when I refer to my running, whatever it may be for somebody, whether it's getting on an exercise machine or doing something physically active, hiking, walking, whatever, my running was my time, and it still is my time to think, decompress, and really translate what's going on upstairs in my brain and how I can translate all those thoughts into some form of positive direction or positive energy. So, because I've had a lot of negative in my life, so I moved out to Maryland, and I was there for a couple of years, and I was kind of down in the dumps. I was depressed, alone. All I did was work, come home, and not that spending time with family isn't great, but sometimes you just need an outlet to get away. One of my favorite sports and hobbies is to hunt and to fish. And there wasn't a whole lot that I can do because Maryland is a very money-oriented state. So to hunt or fish, there wasn't a lot of state land or public land that you could just waltz out on and do your thing. You had to lease it, and it wasn't cheap. It was like $10,000 for a farm, a 100-acre farm. And so, I didn't have the funds for that. So I didn't do much hunting while I was in Maryland either. And my wife, as I told you, her name is Shelby. She seen a social media post that came down for another veteran organization hosting a trip to Alaska. So she applied. It was for veterans with a VA disability rating of 50% or more. And she briefly told my story about deploying to Fallujah, suffering from PTSD and survivor's guilt. And so they called my wife and said, yeah, we'd love to take him on this trip. So she told me, and a couple weeks later, I go on this amazing trip to Alaska. I arrive, I meet some of the other guys. Had a couple amputees, a couple other guys that, one guy had a back injury, another guy, I think just suffered same thing, PTSD, survivor's guilt. And we all end up in Alaska together hunting. We went bear hunting, salmon fishing, went out onto the open ocean and went halibut fishing. And I mean, I this bear that is sitting behind me, that's, the bear that I killed in Alaska. I caught the second largest ever yellow-eyed rockfish. And so I got a trophy affidavit, which I thought was kind of ironic. Standing on the back of a boat on a rainy day when all the other vets had given up, me and the guy who took us out there were still going after the daily limit. And I reeled this fish in, and all the rest of the fish were maybe like 25 inches, long at the biggest. So when this one came up, I was like, wow, this is huge. So I took this amazing picture, got back to the fishing docks 3 hours later, and they said, who caught this fish? And I said, that's my fish. I snatched it out of the barrel, and they said, well, this is a trophy, So they went and weighed it, did all this stuff and measured it. And lo and behold, I missed like the top spot by like a 1/4 inch, but I didn't care. Just the fact that I caught that fish was the coolest thing in the world. But when I came home from that trip, I had a new sense of life, so to say. I felt rejuvenated. My soul felt at peace because I knew there was other people out there experiencing the same things that I was, because I had 10 days to talk to these guys about what bothered them and, how they interacted with civilians and what they did. And it was just, we learned from each other at different points of our lives. And there was guys who had just recently gotten out 2 years, year prior. And there was guys who'd been out at the time, like 6-7 years, like myself. So, coming back from that, I told my wife, like, I was forever grateful, but the wilderness and the outdoors has always been a place for me to retreat. And again, when I don't have to run, sit in the woods and think about things and, translate it into some peace, harmony, and positive energy. And so I wanted to be able to deliver that experience for other veterans. And so I started looking in, how do I do this? And it was a long process. I mean, Johnny Walker here has got a tech startup company, so he knows about how to start up a business. And it's not, there's a lot of things you got to read about. And fortunately for me, I knew a lot of folks in different areas of the world. I had a 82nd Airborne veteran who owns an accounting firm, and he knew how to get the 501c3 paperwork generated. And, then I had a colonel I served with who wanted to assist with helping me find web designers, and which, that worked out great at first. And then we got kind of snafu'd and, found some better web designers. But either way, I had people that were willing and wanting to do something to help out this organization and get its liftoff. So I gave a phone call to maybe 5-6 guys that I served with and said, hey, would you guys like to get involved? And they did. And one of them still helps out till this day. The other 4, I mean, they just, not that they couldn't do it, but Reunite the Fight doesn't pay anybody a salary. One thing that is unique by us is we do everything on a volunteer basis. So we're not out there to be the biggest organization. We're not out there to be the best organization. We're out there to accomplish a mission. And that mission is to help as many veterans as we possibly can on a year-to-year basis. And so I never wanted to lose touch with my roots as far as, where I wanted to see this go. Or people would say, do you think you're going to be bigger than the Wounded Warrior Project? Like, I don't want to be the Wounded Warrior Project. That's the last thing I want to be. I don't want to be a CEO collecting $600,000 because I'm raising all this money to help veterans. And literally a lot of that money that they raise doesn't go back to the veteran. I just want to be able to raise money and do the mission that I sought out to do. And that's to give people the experience I had in Alaska, to hopefully save their life, or at least nurture their soul, to give them some positive energy to want to do more in their communities. And so when Reunite the Fight got its 501c3 approval in 2017, the first few missions I literally paid for out of pocket. Organized them, paid for them, paid for all the travel. I mean, it was thousands of dollars. In the first year of Reunite the Fight, I think I spent about $30,000 of my own hard-earned money gifting trips to people because, brand new organization. Why would people donate not understanding why you're doing what you're doing? And so as time went on and we started hosting fundraisers, a lot of people started to chip in and, get involved. And there were people that I would come into contact with directly, like all of you may become possible future donors to Reunite the Fight and support the mission that we're doing. But, this was something that people even criticize and say, there's no way this guy would do this for free. And they have zero idea that the reason I do this is to feed my soul the positive energy it needs to push forward, to make it to another year. And I feel like what I do here has translated into the good karma that has found my family with, you know, anywhere from healthy children to, you know, having a great home here in Michigan and being able to be close to family, have a great job, and not have to be stressed like some people are looking for income, or, you know, stressed for, you know, kids. I got friends with kids that have cancer and so many other various things that happen in the world. So I try to support as many good causes as I can, just because that's where the grassroots of who I am as a person is, to give the shirt off my back to the person who needs it most. And I learned that being an infantry Marine, living with very little to nothing, or as Johnny Walker says, learning how to be homeless. The Marine Corps teaches you how to be homeless. And I'm very comfortable with that. And so, you know, some people say you have to inspire to get more, but you can also desire less. And I like to think that I am more of a fan of desiring less, because the fruits of my labor are payment in tenfold. I get to go on cool trips with awesome veterans, share my story or my opinions, but more so make it about them and their transitions, or, you know, not just the transitions to civilian life, but maybe more so what they're trying to accomplish, whether it be raising their children, or like we talked about yesterday, Sarah, you know, there's a lot of guys who are become single dads, who are amputees, or, you know, maybe they're the stay-at-home dads and their wives are out there, you know, putting the food on the table, being the breadwinners, and they don't know how to deal with that. So having somebody who's served and fought tell them how important their life is and how important their job is to raise children in today's society with so many corrupt things surrounding us is just positive reinforcement for them to push forward and be happy about who they've become as a person. And so to be able to deliver that to 40, 50 individuals each and every year since we've originated has been very powerful for me. And, you know, we always look to grow. We always look for new opportunities. COVID kind of put us the other direction, but we've been able to maintain. And, you know, we got a fundraiser coming up in April in Colorado. It's a sporting clay shoot. I don't know where the other Marine went, if he's still on or not. The ranch.
Go back to work. Yeah.
So I don't know if he's out in Colorado, but that one will be in Brighton, Colorado. So if that is that where he lives?
He is now in Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah. He would be a great person to partner with, by the way. I don't know, you know, I'll leave that to you.
Well, I was actually
the event?
He's out in Arkansas. I got him hooked up with Heather Lee with the veteran. I don't know if you know Heather Lee. She's a Marine Corps officer. She works for the Veteran Business Association.
Okay.
They got hooked up yesterday. I hooked them up either yesterday or the day before. He's in Arkansas, but he's trying to get out into Colorado and get his thing going. I think what his idea was to find some cattle ranchers with land that they're just using for cattle ranching, and then use that property to do that way he doesn't have to come up with the capital buy the property right out of the gate.
Right.
At least that's the conversation. I can't speak for him, but that was the conversation I had with him before I hooked him up with Heather. And I was hoping Heather might be able to steer him in the right direction. He's got some issues with his discharge. It's other than honorable. So he's ironing that out right now. Heather is hopefully going to be able to support him with that too. And there's a lot of other people in this group and another group, Angels 14, they're helping him out with his discharge. But yeah, Michael, Staff Sergeant, you know, he's in the, you know, I think you guys would be a really good match. And if you're looking for logistics, you definitely, if you're looking for logistics expertise, I'm definitely your guy for that. And Doc, I mean, Horrence here on the call. He's was in the Navy, you know, FMF Corpsman, double dock, and then he's got his Merchant Marine license, and we both were Marine superintendents for Port Newark, and that's how we met, and that's how we ended up becoming business partners in our new company. So if there's logistics questions, we're the guys for that. I have to Oscar Mike. I gotta go. I got My wife's got a doctor's appointment, and I got three monsters upstairs. I can hear them tearing my house apart.
Well, do me a favor, Johnny Walker, is, email me, scott@reunitethefight.org.
Is that with two T's or is it one T? Sierra, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.
Yes.
You got it.
At reunitethefight.org.
Got it.
Yep. Just shoot me an email. That way I got your contact info, and we can bounce ideas off each other for sure.
Awesome, Staff Sergeant. I can't.
And you don't have to call me Staff Sergeant. You just call me Scott.
I'm a terminal Lance. I'm a terminal Lance Corporal. It's force of habit.
Like, I appreciate it, but no, don't. I mean, that was more or less, Sarah was like, "What do you want me to call you?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I was a Staff Sergeant when I got out of the Marine Corps. I guess we'll go with that." So,
you know what's funny is it's easier for me to call officers by their first name than it is to call enlisted higher up, NCOs by their first name for me. And like an officer,
I appreciate,
Heather, and she was like a captain in the Marine Corps,
Yeah, I appreciate you joining the call, hearing my story, and I look forward to connecting with you in some way. And maybe there's something we can do to promote your tech company. Are you out of California?
We're actually we're everywhere. We're remote. So we're in Manhattan, we're in New Jersey, and we're in Omaha.
Where are you physically at?
I'm in New Jersey.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
not too far from if you've ever seen The Sopranos. I live in Caldwell's. That's where Sopranos was filmed.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I think we can bounce a few ideas off each other. I might have some answers for you that could help you out in some ways too. So shoot me an email and I'll shoot you a call. Shoot me your contact information and I'll shoot you a call.
Awesome. But I gotta go. I got three. I gotta go put my top hat, hat on.
Much.
All right, go be the boss.
Yeah.
Sorry, I appreciate the great help that you are. You've been such a great help to me. Thanks so much, Johnny.
Sarah, get us that information over, and this weekend, if you take your time, if you don't get it done today, no big deal. But this weekend, my web dev, he'll get it all together.
I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
We'll
it's our
see,
pleasure.
Johnny.
All right. Take care.
Have a great day.
Hoorah! Hoorah!
Semper Fi, bro.
Scott, when is the event? The shooting event?
The shooting event is on April 22nd. It's in Brighton, Colorado at Colorado Sporting Clays.
That's right in my backyard. I love that range.
Yeah, well, come on out. We'd love to have you. I'm going to have all the registration forms. LPR Construction. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're our partnering organization that helps us head this monster up, and they've got some really good employees who really take a, personal vendetta type approach to putting on this event. They have quite a few veterans that they employ, and we have sent, I don't know, at least 6 of their veterans in the last 4 years on trips that needed it. And so they, we really enjoy working with them. They enjoy working with us. It's a great relationship, but it's an awesome event. So it's April 22nd, and I can get you the information on that. Just shoot me an email after this, title it, more info on Sporting Clays, and I'll be happy to shoot that over to you.
Cool. And if you want help promoting that on LinkedIn or whatever, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I'll take up any of the help I can. The girls who host this event, they sell it out pretty fast every year, and but it's always good getting new teams and new people to the event. It makes it more competitive to get in every year, and it obviously helps us with the fundraising as well, because people don't have to have a team to come. They can sponsor, they can show up, have lunch, meet some of the veterans, and enjoy what we're doing there, buy the raffle tickets, and support the cause.
Cool. Do you guys do like crowdfunding or like a GoFundMe type something, or?
So the only thing we do now is Giving Tuesday, we'll do our Facebook fundraiser. And so in the beginning years of RTF, which was only a couple of years ago, in 2017, well, we're going on 5 years of existence. But needless to say, the Facebook fundraisers, we don't like to beat people up too much with them. So obviously Facebook does the match every year, and not all the funds are matched, but if you raise $5,000-$10,000 and they match 3,000, it's better than nickel and diamond people 5-10 times a year on Facebook or GoFundMe to raise money of that nature in that way. But what we are looking at doing going into the future is not only hosting like a gala type event here in Michigan at the MGM Grand Casino, but we're also going to be, and this is something that I'm going to talk to, I believe his name was Michael, the other Marine, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mike.
that wants the horse ranching.
Yes.
So we partner with some, amazing organizations that do horse therapy. And it would be a great way for him to get his foot in the door. But Reunite the Fight plans to purchase its own ranch. Because right now, our number one expense is travel. And, and then obviously hotels, food, lodging, that takes up the majority of our funds. And that's why we're limited on how many people we can send on these types of, trips every year. Because where the outfitters and the fishing charter captains, they got to cover fuel and bait costs. So they'll discount their rates pretty drastically, but it's not to send 4 guys fishing for, 4 or 5 days in Florida is easy $10,000. And most of it's just travel, lodging, and food, to be quite honest. So we want to be able to have a ranch, have some hunting on the ranch, some fishing on the ranch, but bring people to the ranch where a lot of these supporting agencies that are in horse therapy or have, anything on employment or resume writing class, we could bring people onto the ranch. And, when I say a ranch, more like a 500 to 1,000 acre type location, maybe here in Michigan, maybe in another state, but it's somewhere that more than likely I would learn to reside and spend less time away from the family and be able to help probably 5 to 10 times the amount of veterans on a year-to-year basis versus what we're helping now.
Where are you at in Michigan?
So I'm in a town called Elginak. It's a little water town that borders Lake St. Clair and the St. Clair River. And it's out in my little slice of heaven. So I love it out here. And I'm very lucky to work remote and work and travel to the West Coast to do my work. So when I leave here, I go to different places. It keeps me on the go. It keeps me moving. And that's how I like to operate. It keeps me kind of peace of mind. But when I'm home with the family, it's a great place to be because it's nice and quiet and it's nestled in its own little piece of wilderness.
Oh,
I
that's
know where that is. I spent 2 years in Sterling Heights, so
Oh, yeah. Okay.
working
What'd you
for
do
General
there?
Dynamics. It's working for
Oh.
General Dynamics.
There you go.
Where it was 2005, so we're trying to make new combat vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
But that was right, you know better than I.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just getting reports back of what was actually going on, and the design spec we had was way off what you guys needed, so that program didn't go very far.
Yeah, BAE actually has picked up a lot of the vehicle programs, and then they've gone into like FCS, Future Combat System funding, and like I don't know, did you ever go over to TACOM and tour the arsenal? Yep. So like what they used to call TARDEC, that's kind of no longer, that falls under FCS, and there's a lot of different funding protocols, but needless to say, it's a great place to work. There's a lot of jobs. If you lose one, you can easily grab another if you have the experience,
Yeah, I was working on FCS. We were at 14 Mile, so we were 2 miles from TACOM.
Yep.
So I went down there a few times and had classified chats with, captains and majors about stuff. So. Yeah.
100%. We might have crossed paths because I was there from 2010 to 2013, August. I don't know if you were there that early, but that's kind of when I dipped into the pharmaceutical realm in the world. But either way, you got a cool call sign name, Grizz, right?
I left in, when was that? Like 2008. I left Michigan 2008. So
you haven't been here in a while.
I haven't been to Michigan since about 2008. So
Well, if you ever get back out this way, feel free to look me up, especially if you like the outdoors, because I got a lot of connections, get you out doing a lot of different things.
That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Love what
Absolutely.
you're doing. I love what you're doing. I think, it's just everything about it just seems so healthy. And
Yeah.
again, too, just everything that you have gone through, that you've articulated, that you've kind of found your way to doing this, Reunite the Fight, and you found your balance in life, and you are really just paying it forward. And I love to, I personally appreciate how you just express your faith in God. Because
Yeah.
it's really interesting doing these calls. You really see how powerful that is.
Yeah, I never challenge everybody on their religion. I mean, if you're Muslim, like, that's cool with me. If, the fact that you have faith and you believe in a higher power is more important to me than believing that it doesn't exist. Do I believe science had some sort of play in the world today? Absolutely. But at the same token, like I said, there's things that I've seen and did that I just know there's no other way in the world that I could have did the things I did at times, or, even accomplished some of the things I accomplished at times without his help or without somebody's spiritual guiding hands, because there were some really, really close calls a lot of times. And life and death near experiences, can bring out the best in your faith. So for me, it's just something that I like to stay strong and positive. I pray with my kids every night, because at my weakest time, not knowing whether the heavens and hells exist or not, I have faith that they do. And the fact that they could have faith that they do will carry them through their hardest times at one point of their life. Because I think we're all going to experience them. And, as you age, you start having health things that pop up. So you just got to have the faith that when it's your time, it's your time. And that's kind of the way I live my life. And I like to live it that way. It makes me, grounded, and keep it humble and keep it simple.
Yeah. Healthy and hopeful. And I mean, that's what I see in you anyway. I see that. I see the health and the hope, and the resilience is unbelievable. So
Yeah.
thank you just for you've been such an inspiration. And I can't wait for other people to hear this. So
Yeah, me neither. And I really appreciate you bringing me on, Sarah, giving me the opportunity to meet some of these fellows today and the gals that we got to talk to. And, I appreciate your candidness. And, if you ever need me to come back or engage with some of the other veterans that are out there, I'd be happy to do it. And if you think that there's something I can do to help somebody, anybody, including Travis, if you find somebody in need, like, reach out, let me know. I'm always an email or a phone call away, and feel free to share my information. It's been the same cell phone number for 12 years. I got a gazillion telemarketers calling me. So having somebody who actually has a purpose to call me would be a lot better. Just leave me a voicemail in case I decline.
If somebody wants to donate, or help out Scott, how do they go to the website?
Yep.
How do they?
So the website has, so there's a couple of ways. Obviously you can mail a check if that's some way. Some people are like, I'm not donating online. We use PayPal as our operating system. Everybody sees the PayPal and they think like, oh, I got to have a PayPal account, and then they'll mail a check or not donate at all. But realistically speaking, we're going to change that here in a couple of months. We've been working on our new website. I talked about, we went through a snafu with our old web designers. We were paying an outrageous fee. We had a great website when we first launched, but it became way too pricey. I mean, it was like $10,000, $15,000 a year, and I just couldn't justify dumping that. I mean, to me, I was like, to dump it one time, okay, then we got what we need, we move on. Well, these guys just wanted to keep charging us these absurd rates. So we had to get out from underneath them, and then they took our website with them. So we went and built one on Wix, and now I got another guy that we professionally hired, but he's actually donated his time. We've paid what we needed to pay for the software, and which was nothing compared to what we paid in the past. It was like $1,000 or $1,200. and everything will just be set up to auto renew on our account. But I think our website will cost us about $800 a year to operate, which is much more manageable, and it'll be a nice clean website again compared to what a couple of grunts managed to build on the internet, which is what you currently see right now, which is something. But to say if there's a will, there's a way. I never thought I'd be building a website in my lifetime, but we did it. So it's there.
You and me both. I've built, I don't know, half a dozen, 10 websites over the years, and, trial by fire, I guess.
Yeah. And, but to answer your question in full detail is there's a donate link on the website, takes you to rtfstore.org. And it kind of, it allows you to make the donation. You can click standard donation, a monthly donation, or you can click on other amount and donate whatever you want to.
So would it be appropriate if I, put something on LinkedIn and say, hey, I met this guy, he's really good, you should check him out.
Yeah.
Support him any way you can. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely. There's videos. Obviously, there's all the little icons on our website where you can go to the social media or the YouTube, and people can follow us there. Obviously, we post on that more frequently than we do on the website, because updating the website from time to time can change the dynamics of things. So we try to do that every couple of months as well. And right now we've been going through the transition of where we're going to shut one host down and open the other one, as it's probably about 90% built right now. And we're just crossing some T's and dotting some I's, and putting the finishing touches on the schedule for this year. That way, when we launch it, we have no questions or concerns, because that's something we haven't updated this year yet, but that we're going to be putting on the new website, and it should be up by the end of this month. So if there are any updates as to the links and how it should change, I'll definitely send those forward. But I believe that all the links that are currently built into this website are going to be the same links built into the new site as well.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.